Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the current state of EAFC, the errors that they've had recently which have led to the community uproar, and what we should do going forward to resolve it and essentially just get a better game out of them. If you guys are still stuck with a team like this, and everyone you play in Champs has a team like this, then you need to head over to Sky Coach in the link below. Not only have they got the cheapest and most reliable service for FIFA coins, you can pick any amount of coins, select your console, and put in code PRORECALL for 10% off. Now, first of all, I do want to say, I do think that there are different viewpoints for this. Of course, as a creator, as a consumer, as a general player, you know, there's so many different levels of how committed people are to FIFA as a game. You know, there are people who really will only play a couple games a week and they are much more casual. You have people who are playing every single Div Rivals game every week, every single Champs game, all your qualifiers. There is very different levels of being sort of a FIFA player. I think people do forget as well, obviously there's a big gap between consumers and of course content creators. I think content creators vastly probably spend the majority of the money on EAFC, and obviously at the minute there's been a lot of people who, for example, aren't spending any money, they don't have the time to do that, haven't benefited from any of these sort of errors that EA have made, and it's obviously rightfully upsetting a lot of people. Now, me personally, I've spent an absolute fortune on FIFA for quite a few years now, ever since YouTube has been more monetizable. I have obviously been spending more on the game to get more out of it, especially with the sort of increase in store packs that they've got. There's a lot of people spending a lot of money, and it is kind of, in essence, to keep up on a content scale. It is hard to keep up with content without just having a constant stream of players as well, and obviously where I don't always have the time to craft stuff, it is really helpful to be able to do that. Now, obviously there have been four kind of big issues in the past. Obviously we've had recently the Dembele and Mbappe issue with Foot Champs, where people essentially were almost guaranteed to get two of the best cards in the game just for completing Weekend League quite early, and obviously we don't necessarily know the impact of that error yet. Of course, we do know the impact of the error before that, which was obviously the Messi, which was sent out in essentially player picks to the majority of people who initially did this SBC. So a vast majority of people who are logging on at 6 managed to get a Messi. I personally haven't benefited from either of these mistakes. The mistake that they made a few years ago, the hero packs, I did manage to get one. I've also benefited from various icon picks when we've realized that they were wrong, so people have completed them super fast to then get an extra pick. I've been part of that as well. So there are a lot of people who have been sort of beneficial of these errors, and if you look on Twitter, there are some people who you can unfortunately tell. Obviously there are, you know, there's a young viewer base on FIFA. There are a lot of people who are kind of not having a tantrum, but they're a bit fuming just because they didn't get it. I think there's a lot of people who probably wouldn't be as mad about the things that have happened if they were to have benefited. You know, I can't imagine many of the people who have Mbappe are complaining about it right now, and I'm not saying that that is a good thing, and I'm not blaming the community. It's just, we do have to look at, like, why are you mad? Are you mad because you didn't get it, or are you mad because it happened? And obviously it is more frustrating when you don't get it, and now there's this kind of feeling that we're going to come up against these cards all the time. But I do feel like the vast majority of players are not going to have that problem. It's a very small amount of people who I think actually were able to benefit off this. You know, you've got to think the minimum wins. I personally only get 9 wins most weeks. I get 11 sometimes, but the minimum wins people were getting in most of these screenshots is like 11 and 14. There weren't many people with 9 wins. These are kind of, in my opinion, higher rated players now, higher level players than what most of us will come across. You know, I'm Div 3. There's not going to be a lot of Div 3ers who have been gone through Weekend League in like 6 hours and then gone and got that kind of rewards. Like, it's just not realistic. I obviously see online there's a lot of people saying we should boycott EA. Now, the thing is, I do think that everyone not playing the game would have a result because people are spending less money on FIFA points, and that would in turn result in their bottom line being touched. But I do think that the cut out the middleman version of that is that rather than going, okay, let's not play FIFA, because realistically, even if you go for consumers who don't spend any FIFA points yet, you've spent 50 quid, 60 quid, you know, depending on what version of the game, maybe even 80, 90 quid on this game. There is no reason that you should turn around and not be able to play this game because they're making mistakes. I 100% agree that something has to be done to affect EA's bottom line for them to go, okay, right, this maybe isn't going to be able to carry on. We can't just keep doing them over because eventually the community is going to have a problem. The thing is, right now they don't see that at all, because yes, everyone's kind of in a bit of an uproar, but the reality is they've made more money in this FIFA than any other FIFA, because one, the game was more expensive, which is obviously outrageous to start with. Then secondly, we've got packs that, I mean, I'm guilty of opening these on shorts, but my contribution to this kind of boycott, if people are going to go ahead and boycott something, I think it's 100% the bottom line. I'm not going to do any FIFA points for as long as the community continues to boycott these things. I will put my hat in the ring and say that I think FIFA points is the one that we should be boycotting. I would say if you want to spend money on this game, because it's inevitable, people are going to buy packs. The majority of YouTubers have coin sponsors. Use your coin sponsors. Get coins from your own coin sponsors if you are a YouTuber. If you are someone who was going to spend money on the game and still want to, I'm not saying spend money on the game. I would say, if anything, best, leave it. But if you'd like to spend money on the game, there are coin sites, and they also, I think on large at the minute, it's cheaper to buy the store packs with FIFA points if you go through coin sites than it is to buy them through FIFA points. So you'll actually save money if that's what you were doing anyway. I personally am just going to avoid opening packs as much and just trying to make my content better. I will be doing sort of packs that are SBC based, where we can craft them and get them sort of virtually free, so that everything I'm advertising is also going to be free for the consumer as well. I think that's one thing that YouTubers can contribute with, which is just not advertising the purchasables as much, or putting disclaimers, because coin sites, obviously everyone has a coin site, but coin sites value wise is a lot better than going and buying FIFA points. And the amount of people who just get stiffed with these packs, I mean, I've been stiffed with so many, and like a lot of the stiffed ones people won't post because it's not good content. My YouTube shorts only do well when I have a good pack, so you don't see as many of the crappy packs. But I think we can all do better by just not opening these, or just being kind of more open about, look, yeah, there are some crap ones. This is the 4th one I've opened and we've got a good one. I usually mention how many I've opened, but you don't get to see it necessarily. So I do think, until further notice, I think the spending on FIFA points needs to stop. I think as a community, I think we all need to do better as a collective to support each other, rather than going, I hate this creator that's not willing to not upload, or there've been people trying to put out tweets to try and get something together so we can actually get EA to notice that there's a problem. I personally think there's something going on in their own company, because the mistakes that have been made, it almost seems like, I feel like someone internally, I don't know how to explain it, it's not espionage, but I think they've had it before, where obviously you've had EA employees were selling people cards and stuff like that. So there's definitely chances that some EA employee is intentionally messing things up for them. There's loads behind. We don't know where these mistakes have come from. It doesn't justify it either way. I do think, I'll give my 2 pence on the Mbappe situation. I think the fairest thing to do, and it's not nice, and the people who benefited from this would no longer benefit, the fairest thing to do would be to reset all rewards that were given out by the League One tots. So everyone's got to pick on what odds they should have been in the first place. And yes, a lot of people will lose a brilliant card that they've got. But the reality is, if we want to not have the effect on the game that it should, and unfortunately it's crap. If you've got this Mbappe, you wouldn't want this to happen, and I agree, it's difficult, but the only way we're going to see genuine change and is to go back. You can't, everyone's complaining about, but the only way that you can really solve this issue is to go back on it, because I agree that it's crap that a lot of, they've probably given out more players or more of the Mbappes and Dembélés in those red rewards than they were going to give out altogether through any packs or red rewards or anything. There is probably more of them on the game than ever should have been, and I think the only way to resolve that is to completely take them off, which obviously isn't great at all, and it's sad for those people. Maybe the people who have had their rewards changed, or everyone maybe gets an extra red reward for the sort of pain of it. You've got that extra chance at a card, and it is going to damage one group more than others, because it's the people who actually did the glitch. But a lot of people did it on purpose. A lot of people saw, I was trying myself, but when you look at the reality, even if I had got Mbappe, the fairest thing to do is for you to not have these cards, because they weren't meant to be in the game in the first place. Obviously, for my part, a lot of the content that I do produce is based on getting SBCs, packs, things like that for free. Obviously, going down the route of trading as well. All of it is kind of to not necessarily take the money out of EA, but to give you guys an assistance in not having to spend on the game, because the reality is, with a lot of the methods that we run through, you can build up from nothing, and although it takes time, it doesn't take any of your money. I do think that obviously, as a whole, that needs to continue in the next year. I think there needs to be less of a sort of tilt on the spending on the game. Hopefully that we can all begin to produce content that has less involvement of that kind of thing, until EA does begin to not make these mistakes, however they are coming about. Obviously, we saw another mistake this morning with an icon pack, which is kind of why I've tilted towards the idea maybe someone at EA is doing this on purpose, because it's so weird that something would come out 12 hours early and be wrong. And then again, if it's their own genuine mistake, that kind of makes it even worse, that it's so bad of a mistake that it could be espionage. You know what I mean? And guys, I do understand that there are going to be people who have a different viewpoint to me or don't agree with me. And of course, I think that the best thing would be for us all as a community to agree on the solution, whether it be boycotting FIFA points or boycotting a part of the game or whatever the solution was. I just don't think that coming down to the bottom of it, we should be the ones that are sort of feeling the pain of that. I think that stopping some cash flow going to EA would be brilliant. Obviously, right now, they've only seen their sort of most cash sort of heavy game come out so far, so they're right now looking at this probably as a win, and we need to kind of take that away. I think with the footies, what will come, and then of course after footies we've got Euros, I think just before maybe. I think if people spend a lot less on FIFA points, they will have to do something, and whether that means they crack down more on coin sites, whatever it is, I can't imagine they'd do that. I think that would just annoy the community more. I think what will happen is that they actually have to sort of, I think, be more communicative, because even if we got some communication around this and just got told, look, this is what's happened and this is why, at least it would get us a better understanding, because right now it just looks like incompetence.